So we were just talking. I always love a guinea pig, and you've got a. Don't you have a podcast? You do like a webinar. You do a lot of this stuff yourself, don't you, Christian?
Yeah, we've been doing it for a little bit. I just started kind of the US version of from the source from our company. So yeah, I've been rolling out a few. So, but I'm happy to be a guinea pig for someone else. And there's always new tech and good stuff on the market.
Yeah.
So,
So I just switched off Riverside, and I'm checking out
mhm.
this new one right here. I'm having a hard time getting my music to fade in and out very smoothly. That didn't.
That's all right. It worked out, I think.
I mean, it worked out. It just wasn't what I wanted. Um, what platform do you use when you're doing your live streams and your
Yeah, I've been
podcasts?
using StreamYard, and then Opus Clip has been pretty cool for the just kind of making some off clips for other social channels. So yeah, those are the two I've used.
Yeah, that's right. So I was going to go with StreamYard, and the reason we're even having this conversation because I think honestly, choosing a platform really is another layer within loosely this HR tech. I mean, companies are trying, they're looking for new ways to brand themselves and get out there. And you're seeing the rise of more of what we're doing just by just more and more companies. So I encourage
Yeah,
people just get out there and try it. Um, Christian,
yeah,
how did you get involved in staffing? After well, you played what is it, D1, D2 tennis?
yeah. I played Division 1 tennis. Yeah, I can kind of give a quick
Yeah, how did that
blurb.
happen? Because I don't think anyone wakes up and says, "Gosh, you know what? I want to have a career in staffing."
Yeah, well, staffing tech. So
Staffing tech.
I
Okay.
pursued. I pursued tennis my whole life. Played D1 tennis at Marist and kind of at the national level, and then went into coaching. Played some semi-pro tournaments here and there, and but really was focusing on the coaching side of it. Helped open up a tennis academy with Yvonne Lendl down in South Carolina. I did that for a few years post college, and then I moved up to Boston in kind of still in the sports management space. I moved to the business side of it, but then all Boston's such a big tech hub, so I had all these friends that were doing software sales and had some friends that actually worked at Bullhorn, so they kind of introduced me to some people
Oh,
there. So Bullhorn was actually kind of my first foray in
you're.
just the technology sales,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, so obviously they're in staffing tech, so that's how I got in. That was my foray into the staffing world,
Yeah,
really in
they're the big
general.
boys on the block. Hey, let's see
Yeah.
if we can get your mic volume a little louder.
Okay.
You're coming through decent, but I would love to see if I can get you up a little bit more.
How about now?
Not making much difference.
Okay. Can I do anything on end? Let's see here. Audio.
See if you can just kind of boost it up a little bit on your side. Yes,
Yeah.
there are, there are certain cities that have a basis of companies where you're afforded, to launch a career because there's so much demand for that talent, and you're kind of given the opportunity because they need to hire people, and you may not have come. You obviously didn't come from having a tech background, but you're enabled to learn tech because you're in the tech town. Um, and Bullhorn really is the big boy on the block, and that's really what started this whole series. Honestly, was that we are Bullhorn users within our staffing footprint of all the branches that we have. And I thought, why have I not really dug in and talked to the great companies that are really in my industry that are helping staffing and executive search companies, get better and compete. I'll give you one statistic I just read. 24% of all companies are now using AI in their recruiting processes. So
Okay.
um, let's talk a little bit about just what it is that SourceFlow is doing for the marketplace. Like, what's the solution? What's the problem that you're solving for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a demand generation platform. So a proprietary tech platform that powers websites, career portals, form technology, and other marketing tools. So yeah, basically we're all centered around increasing the brand awareness and uh, candidate and client lead generation for staffing firms. Um,
Which of those do you think is demanding the most attention right now? The a candidate or client? I have my opinion. I think I see what's happening, but what's your take right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest trend right now is everything's around sales and business development, which is
That's what
obviously
I'm
a little
seeing.
bit different than it was maybe 2 to 3 years ago, even, right? It was candidates, and really like the last 6, 12, 18 months has been for all these staffing firms are how do we increase our sales and how do we get more clients. So a
Yeah.
lot of our conversations are around, we're top of funnel like centric. So a lot of our conversations are centered around on the client side lately, a little more than usual.
So when you go about to build a website, um, and you have this, demand and lead generation aspect is kind of your positioning statement. What is it that you're doing differently in building a website to enable this uh, more inflow to that top of the funnel?
Yeah, I think first is around kind of optimizing for SEO and what Google is liking, these days, right? And optimizing our platform so that our clients can leverage that effectively. So it's like creating that great experience once you get on the site. How, obviously how they're getting surfaced in Google is Google liking your website. That's first and foremost, right? Like how can we make more people find your site, find your content? And then it's making it a great experience when they're on your site and super easy for them to interact with the content. And then the kind of like the second to third part of that is how do we get that data? Like if you're creating content, maybe some gated content, it's how do we get that data to the systems of record, right? In the most effective way and to the right people. Because you'd be shocked. It's like a lot of times staffing firms have like these contact forms or like lead forms, and but they're not going to, they might be going to email or not even getting service in the right areas. Whereas us, we're really focused on the integration aspect and getting it to the right teams at the right time so that they can be followed up with like really quickly. Right.
Yeah, if
So,
if people just really understood how difficult it is just to draw traffic to your website, particularly in, I mean, let's be honest, staffing is not a very sexy industry. When I say that, people give me different reactions,
yeah.
but it's challenging. And so when
Yep.
someone hits a contact form, I mean, you better be following up with them in 6 hours, 3 hours. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, within hours for sure. Yeah. And you want that. You also, the other piece of it is what we're doing differently is just understanding the journey tracking and understanding how that client got there, right? So that the marketing teams can really get good analytics around what's working and what's not, right?
yeah, that's interesting. And I do think we should, talk about that a little bit because optimizing and SEO and making your website attractive in Google's eyes is hugely important. And have you found that there's a reluctance for staffing companies to get involved with like the type of work that you and I are doing, this kind of content creation and blogging? Because most recruiting companies are pretty heads down. Like, we have to go find a client, we have to go find a
Mhm.
candidate. We need to manage that process. And now you're saying, now Christian and you guys come in and say, yeah, but we have to build out this aspect of your website. You need to have content.
Yeah. So I think there's kind of a fundamental shift happening where I think marketing was in the past viewed more as, at least in the maybe small to mid-sized businesses, as a cost center versus a revenue generation center, right? And so I think that shift is actually really starting to happen. Again, like the last 6, 12 months, especially as more firms are trying to stand out in a crowded market, right? On the sales aspect.
I'm an example of that.
Yep. And so it's like you're right. Everyone's kind of like heads down recruiting and sales and like making calls and do we hire a salesperson or not? But guess what? Everyone has a website and everyone's now trying to stand out. So a lot of firms are kind of shifting eyes on increasing traffic and conversion through owned channels versus paid channels, right? You already have a website, you have social media. most all of that is free or less
Yeah.
cost. So they're trying to actually optimize those because you already have those. And how can we get the most traffic and conversion through there? And so that's where we come in, and that's where I think there's actually a good shift now to see marketing as a revenue generator for the business.
Okay, yeah, talk about that rec marketing and, doing more with the job board itself, maybe segmenting a little better, maybe speaking more to different categories of people. And maybe this is not where you were going, but I've had this conversation almost ad nauseum with people, particularly when it's like a consulting type of environment, is if you're not understanding you've got passive and active candidates, and if you're not speaking differently and showing something different on your website, depending on really where that person is, you're just going to miss, attracting those people.
Yeah, I think one again is optimizing the site so that when people are searching or on the internet on their phone, that they're getting served maybe jobs that you have open, in that market for that particular person. But yeah, I think once you get to the site, it's having content there that they might be interested in, and then kind of making it easy for them to navigate to where they want to get to. But then also making it super easy, like if they do like a job or something, making it super easy for them to apply, right? Or contact a recruiter and provide that experience for them.
Is
Yeah.
this an area that you guys are focused on with the agencies? I mean, do you have those conversations with them about
Oh
passive
yeah.
or active?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's more. I'd say
I know that's a
that's
little down
more.
funnel.
Yeah, that's a little more kind of like in the ATS. I'd say getting it once the kind of down funnel, like you said, then the ATS, like who's passive, who's active. But we certainly interact with that because sometimes those passive candidates, there's a lot of cool things being done with AI and automation these days where you might have a bunch of passive candidates or people in your system, right? But guess what? You want automation to be nurturing those people, right, with relevant jobs. So what we're seeing a lot of is actually campaigns that might send texts or emails or newsletters that include maybe top 5 jobs that are relevant to what they're interested in, and that actually sends them right to like those 5 jobs on the website, right, that you have hosted on your career portal. So they get these texts, click on that link. Oh, great. These are actually some interesting jobs that I've been interested in the past. And then they can do a quick apply. Guess what? That updates their resume because they have a new resume since the last time they applied. So it all is kind of intertwined, right?
Yeah, that that nurturing of your database is just critical. And I've had other companies on where the goal, as we just talked about, many companies are now using AI.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't get into AI and automation if your database is a mess. If it's not cleaned up and
Yeah.
normalized. Um, how are you kind of fitting into that aspect of, okay, you're consulting, you're helping them build their website, they want to do these cool things. Are you almost like an, I don't want to say an integration partner, but how do you work within that sphere to help those companies fully utilize what your websites are enabling?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here. So we have a really powerful integration platform that we've built here at SourceFlow. So there's a lot of good, cool things we can do and flexibility we have with our partners to be sending data and formatting data correctly. So we can help when people are applying or filling out forms, and we can make sure that the best and highest quality data is getting captured and then sent to the ATS, and that
Mm.
it's getting updated in the ATS or CRM, wherever it's going properly, right? So that is good data. Now, the other issue here is kind of what you're talking about is just the inherent issue of data quality in any CRM or ATS, whether that's in staffing or tech sales or anywhere else. And so I think the next piece of that is just making sure your data quality in candidate and client record quality is high in your ATS. And there's a bunch of partners in the ecosystem
Right.
that do that. So, I mean, we actually just had We just released an ebook with the folks at SourceWhale and Woo, and those guys are focused on keeping some contact information up to date in the ATS. So we kind
Yeah,
of
you
play in
just talked to
that world.
Gabe, didn't you? Not
Yep.
too
Yeah,
long
I just talked
ago.
to Gabe. I just had Gabe on the podcast, and our marketing teams all just got together and released an ebook about a cool how we partner with people, right? And that's like top of funnel to down funnel, and then
That's
making
just
sure
what
all
I
the
was
data is
talking
up to
about.
date.
Yeah.
Yep.
It
It's
would
just
just seem
like,
like it just makes
yeah.
so much sense for you guys to kind of come together in these strategic partnerships because companies are just now waking up that we've got to do much more. We hear about the automation, we want to use the AI, and it's like, okay, they just show up at your doorstep. And it's like they're these, a captive audience. You just kind of put your arm around them and okay, here's what we're
Yep.
going to do. We got these three simultaneous projects because again, if the data is just littered with potholes, what good is it for you to then have this, gated content and they're filling out the contacts and they're going into a broken, ATS.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I want
Yeah.
to talk about from your perspective now, working for staffing tech, and then of course just tech. Um, Looking over the different clients that you've been working with, how is sales and marketing now really evolving? What are some of the changes that you've seen in your own, just your personal life, just from the companies you worked with before, and now what's happening with everything being digital and AI? Are you noticing any different, like significant changes in patterns and habits with sales and marketing people?
Well, that's funny. I mean, we've always made fun of the fact in tech, right? Sales and marketing, there's always a kind of a fight in sales and marketing, right? Like, who are the real
Who's
who are
the
the real
breadwinner?
heroes? Yeah, who are the heroes? Who are the zeros?
Right.
Sales likes to blame marketing. Marketing likes to blame
Everyone's like,
sales, and it's fun. And we can just make a bunch of memes about how fun that is. But I think what's different in the last several years is just data in general. I mean, the access to data and the power for building analytics has just increased monumentally, and everyone's kind of valuing data and taking it more seriously. So on the higher end, there's data science teams being built at the enterprise level, right? So there's millions of dollars being spent just to create a team that's analyzing data from all your different systems and really understanding how the business is doing, where that's going, where the company's winning, where it's losing. So I think just the focus on analytics in general and building, and how that seeps into marketing is just building these attribution models and like what's
yes.
working, what's not. And I think just that access to data is making it hopefully easier. There's still fights and stuff, but I think creating kind of a unified data set in a business is the ultimate goal. So there's no arguing about what data is right and what's not. And I think that will ultimately start helping sales and marketing be more closely aligned.
Yeah, I like what you just said, the attribution model, because particularly if you're able to kind of trace that customer's journey on the website, like what content did trigger them? Or not only what content, where was that content when they
Yeah.
found it? Did they find you on LinkedIn? Was it from YouTube? Was it an Instagram post? And then what was their journey on the website? Did they go to About Us? Did they read a case study? Whatever, and then they finally hit the contact form. And hopefully you can begin to see this is kind of how they're thinking. This is like how they're wired to analyze a company because everyone analyzes a company through their own, I don't know what information they want, right? So
Yeah.
that this is what you're talking about, correct? This
Yeah.
attribution.
Exactly. And I think in the staffing space, it's not very different. Maybe a few years behind the curve, like in valuing that kind of analytics, but we're certainly here now. But not to shameless plug SourceFlow. I mean,
No, I mean, we're here to
uh,
talk about you. I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
want to hear
no,
about, I mean, I'm learning too. I want to know what you guys can do.
well, I mean, so the name isn't really an accident, right? I mean, source. I mean, we really want people to understand, uh, really the data behind what's happening at your top of funnel, whether it's through websites, career portals, social, like, and then we're really understanding kind of what the journey was that those candidates and clients took to ultimately convert for you. So we're trying to arm you with the data that helps you understand, again, what are our best performing channels, right? And where do we invest and where do we not invest ongoing? And that can be actual coming from LinkedIn or certain pages on your website. Um, but then we can actually send that to the kind of teams, right? Like the salesperson who gets that lead through that content can understand the journey that person took, and we're actually sending that data to the system of record for them, so that when they pick up the phone, they better understand who that person is and what they might be interested in.
We might be doing something similar, but we just kind of backed into it because we have a subscription to Ahrefs, and
Mm-hmm.
we dig pretty deep into SEO and what keywords seem to be doing well, which of our pages are getting the most views, where what parts of the country, what parts of the world are people kind of logging in and looking. You can even dig in and look at your competitors. You can see what's happening on your competitors' websites. You kind of begin to get an idea of what content people want. um, when you look at I have two questions really. One is, when you talk about gated content, maybe kind of talk people through that a little bit, what the philosophy is behind that, why you think that's a good strategy, because it's something that I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
We're going to start doing that a lot more ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of maybe talk through that. And then secondly, not quite as related, but all the things you were talking about. Well, what if a company already has a website? Like they've already built a website, but now they're learning these are the great things that SourceFlow can do. Is there a way for them to even still kind of connect and work with your solutions?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can take any one of those questions in any order you want.
Yeah. First question. What was the first question again?
That was
The
such a
gated content.
compelling
Never mind. I
question that
got
I
it.
asked,
No,
right?
I'm like a goldfish. All right. So, gated content.
Don't Note to self, don't ask two long-winded questions back to back.
No,
Talk
on
about
a
gated
Friday
content.
morning, give
Did you have your
Christian a break.
coffee?
I have my Dunkin' here, so I'm from Boston, everyone.
Oh, okay.
So
What is
yeah,
it with Dunkin'? What is it with Dunkin'? I mean,
I
it's like
mean,
this.
well,
It's on every
Dunkin' was
corner in Boston.
originated
It's
in
like
Boston.
literally every. It's like Starbucks every
Yeah,
corner.
Dunkin' was originated in Boston, so you'll find
I
one
know.
like on every corner, like 100 feet away. It's just everyone has to have
I tell you, one of the
access.
fun. This was one of the funniest Saturday Night Live skits. This was I don't remember what year it came out, but they had. It was like all the Starbucks executives were around and they were talking about their growth plans. And one guy goes, "All right, look, I've got this great idea. We're going to put Starbucks inside of Starbucks." I don't know the way they
That's pretty
pulled that
good.
off. It was gold. Anyway, that's kind of only real estate that's left in
Yeah,
Boston,
I
right? For
know.
Dunkin', it's on every corner.
It's wild. It's funny. It's always funny to have people here out of town, and this seem that way. Why is there a Dunkin' across the street? We're at a Dunkin' right now.
And there's another
Um,
one right there. Yeah.
yeah, and I have a
Yeah, I know
Dunkin' in my
you guys are
hand.
headquartered up there, or
Yeah,
Dunkin' is, yeah. Okay, so anyway,
no, it's fun.
okay,
Anyway, gated
back on
content.
track.
So
Gated
I think,
content. Talk to me
yeah, I
about
think
that.
the philosophy there. I mean, look, if they're a qualified lead, if they're interested in your content, then they're gonna fill out a couple details to download that, right? I think the key is just not making that overly um
Yeah, yeah,
inquisitorial
yeah. Don't
almost,
ask
right? Like
for
you don't
too
want to have
much,
like
right?
5 6 questions like, hey, what's your name and email, and hey, you have access to it. And so I think that's, if you're investing in that content and making that content, and it's solid content, then someone's gonna engage with it and share a couple details about them, right, to read it. And that allows you as a team to measure what's working, but also follow up with them. And um, let's make it about them too. I mean, if they're interested in it, they might want to hear more. Obviously, you need a respectful sales and marketing team. You're not going to like spam them afterwards, but they might want to learn more about your solution, or know that there's someone there behind it that they could speak to if they do have more questions. So I think it's a really fine, avenue to get more leads.
Yeah, I do too. I think it is. I think it's. I think it makes the job for salespeople. It helps them prioritize.
Hmm.
You're not just starting every day with just question mark. Okay,
Yeah.
who's a warm, who's a
Yeah.
warm prospect? Do I go to LinkedIn? Do I chase jobs? What do you do? So obviously, if you can prioritize those, but then I think the onus then becomes on creating that content and knowing where to put it. I don't know how much exposure you have to success stories with gated content. Do you want to talk at all about, like, maybe even a little more specifically, like client? Okay, let's you just mentioned people are looking for business development. They need more clients. What
Yep.
type of gated content do you think what you're seeing could generate some clicks? And where
Yeah.
would you post it?
Yeah, totally. So the cool thing is, well, one of our clients has a totally separate part of their site. It's called Insights, and so they have blogs, webinars, salary guides, news, trends and insights. So those can be quarterly or annual, like kind of reports, events. So there's like 5 or 6 different things they have on that kind of page on
Under
their
the
website.
insights. I love
Yeah.
that.
And so not only that, this is one of our brands is an international brand. So they actually put out salary guides per country as well. So,
That's a
obviously
heavy
that becomes a
lift.
little bit more resource intensive, but,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be, right? It can just be one salary guide a company is releasing. And as long as you're kind of more consistent with that type of content, then I think that's going to show. It's going to be relevant. It shows that you care, and it's going to be good for SEO that, you're kind of producing content semi regularly. So,
But where do you, I mean, I know there are services and there's ways to research where to place the content and like where to promote it. Um, but we're talking about staffing, we're talking about getting new businesses. So primarily, are we talking about how do we attract HR professionals? Is that, or are we looking at other categories of professionals? Because I can tell you firsthand experience, it's very difficult to get HR people to connect.
oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can offer beer and pizza and they're not going to come.
No, absolutely.
They're like, "Oh, I don't want any part of this."
Yeah, of course. I
So,
mean, like,
what's
yeah,
your opinion? What what's the answer to this?
I think it's like anything, it depends, but it's also just
Yeah,
I
are you a
think
lawyer?
yeah, I know. It's like you really have to I think you're covering all channels, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like it's kind of I mean, everyone says it, but it's a multi-channel approach,
it
right?
is. It
It's
is. I
like
thought you were going to say spray and pray because I think that's
no, I stopped doing that years ago. No.
wise
Uh
man. Well, you're a VP sales. You've learned now that doesn't
yeah,
work.
of course. No, no, you're
But
gonna
now we
hurt.
call it a multi-channel approach.
Yes, of course. And it's so yeah, it's so like corny now, but I mean, you
But it's
kind of need
true
it,
though. You
right?
really, right? You
Some
got to
people
get it on
are
YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You just have to kind of,
everyone's on different channels. Everyone has different kind of
yeah.
tastes and but the consistency here is you're distributing that through email and your social, LinkedIn, but that content's living somewhere, right? And it's living on an awesome branded site, right?
Yeah,
And that
on
makes
your
it easy to
under your
interact with.
insights page or
Yeah,
whatever.
right. And that makes you be able to track all of that too. So all of that is kind of geared towards getting people to your brand to interact with it.
Okay, so let's go to the second part of that question. Um, you've already got a website built, and you discover, SourceFlow. Is there a post website process or consulting that people can connect, and
Yeah,
what
I
type of
mean,
areas?
we'll talk with anyone around their website and kind of their marketing goals. The reality is sometimes people aren't in we're not at the right time, right place, right time, and that's totally fine. I think what a lot of people elect to do is they they might kind of rebrand or do some aspects of the brochureware and redo that, but they don't update the career portal side of it. So, they're distributing jobs from their systems of record to the career portal and then that getting back into the system of record is outdated. So a lot of times we're doing just career portal projects with a lot of our staffing firms or consulting firms to optimize that part, right? So They can kind of keep the brochure where they've done the rebranding. That's awesome. Guess what? We can do a lot of the career portal work and match that branding with what they've done. But we can provide that technology that they need to make that career portal really powerful and convert as many candidates as possible.
Okay, so what am I missing though about this career portal? So you've got, let's say, Bullhorn, good example,
Mm-hmm.
and you have is it like an API that connects Bullhorn to your job page? And you type in, you put in your job. You can. There's two. I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but the published job that you want people to read, that one goes, to your job board, if you will. And
Yep.
then you mentioned getting the data back into the ATS. I
Mm-hmm.
just go a little deeper. Help me understand like what are the problems that these companies are having, and why is that? Why is it a problem?
Yeah. Well, where to start? So I think
I should have
first,
asked that at the beginning.
yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised, but I think what happens is sometimes the job isn't even getting to the ATS, and sometimes firms don't even realize that's happening, and that could be because their integration's broken, that your job record in the ATS is not optimized for it. So make sure jobs are getting to the career portal, the ones that you want, and then the formatting correctly as well. Is the data getting to that job record the way you want it, right? So it's displayed
Right.
in the right way. I mean,
And even aesthetically, right? I mean, we talked
aesthetically
about the
pleasing,
passive and
formatted the
active.
same. So
Yeah.
I've talked to so many companies recently where they actually have teams manually editing like the job record before it gets to the website. And I mean, that's just wastes of like hundreds of hours per month versus with our platform and the way we integrate, we can templatize every job. So even if it's not formatted correctly in the ATS, by the time it's
Hmm.
published to the career portal, it's formatted and fixed the way you want it to look for every job. It all looks the same. It all looks aesthetically pleasing how you've designed it to look like with our team. And there's no limit to the fields that you want mapped or the data that you want displayed on that job record. So, I mean, that's where we've seen a lot of problems, and that can obviously cause a lot of issues too.
I see. No,
Yep.
you're right. I just did a little bit of an audit myself at kind of what was going on, and we actually closed our one of our job portals down because we're in the process of. I told you this. I wish I had met you a couple months ago because we are
It's all good.
literally at the finish line
We're not going
finishing.
anywhere. It's fine.
I know you're not going anywhere, but I'm kind of bummed. It's like, man, we just started a website project, back in late September,
It's all
October.
good. No, but I mean, I think we're doing some really cool things again because what we find too is a lot of people are building on like third party platforms like WordPress and things like, and that's fine. I just think there's some limitations there in terms of like WordPress wasn't really built for the staffing market. So, um, there are some limitations with kind of the career portals and job searches available with that.
Hmm.
So, with us, we've actually built a proprietary platform built for staffing and recruiting, and so all of our investments are going into kind of enhancing this product and then infusing automation and AI to kind of make those experiences even better. So can't say too much yet, but there's some really cool things happening in the next
Oh,
six to 12 months.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
We
you heard
we
it
like
here,
the
folks.
little.
There's new things coming
I
out
love
and
it. I
new
love
tech
it.
coming out all the time. So all with the goal of helping people like yourself out and growing the business.
Well, so let's let this be one of our last questions because we've covered a lot of ground, and I think we'll have more episodes. We can
Yeah.
we'll do more. If you're watching this, you're not watching it live, but we will start doing more live streaming because I think there's a big opportunity to kind of talk about things in more real time, things that are happening because things are happening pretty quickly in the industry. You mentioned AI and all the new challenges or changes that are taking place. Are there any other tech stacks out there? Any other things that you have been seeing that other staffing companies are using or going to that maybe we should start taking a look at or considering in our workflow?
That's a good question. I think,
Do I need to hit the pause button while you think?
yeah, I mean, it might take multiple seconds, like where to start. I think we're still obviously in our nascent stages of AI. I think more, like you said, 25% of people are starting to use AI. I still think some people are also not. I mean, a lot of people, that means a vast majority aren't, right? And
Yeah.
so I think a portion of that have adopted it are, doing the rudimentary stuff, may not be adopting it correctly. The other are kind of evaluating how to adopt it and then properly implement it. And so the AI tools in market and AI additions to tools are, it's just, there's hundreds of them out there, so it's hard to
There
keep
are, but I
track.
just meant like other tech stacks. It didn't have to be, I don't know, it didn't have to be AI. I just, with you guys in the front end of building websites and then the back end and all the integration, you might have seen something else that that staffing companies are starting to use or maybe put on their website or I don't know, include
Yeah,
somewhere in their workflow.
I think a lot of them are starting to do things, and I think that the tech stack is similar to even what we talked about earlier, and using AI and automation is actually starting to automatically, you know, creating tasks and stuff like that. Like that's already kind of started to happen, but then automatically updating contact data. That those are things that people are starting to do. Yeah, so I mean, and then
Stay
kind of
tuned.
the marketing automation part of it too. So like HubSpot is obviously like kind of this marketing automation tool that some companies have had and stay there, right? They want to stay in place so they can continuously like market to these people.
Hmm.
Sometimes the ATSs don't have powerful enough tools to do that. So what we're seeing is some of the larger companies or mid market to large companies are still using HubSpot. So we can actually integrate that and send data to those tools also from the top of funnel. So I think all these tools are going to start to try and work together because uh, there's not one consolidated tool that's going to be manage all of it. So it's going to be interesting couple of years, I think.
Yeah, seems like there's a lot of bolt-ons
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot
Absolutely.
of that. Well, I tell you, Christian, it's been great to kind of talk through all the different changes. I hope that more companies embrace this because I think when they do, um, it'll be a benefit for all the companies in the space because the candidates get exposed to these bad companies.
Yeah.
And that's what I
That's
mean.
true.
That's the
Yeah.
problem. If everyone could start upgrading the user experience, then overall the industry kind of rises. They think, oh, there's an increase in um, customer service or attention to detail, just because you were in the people business and people talk and they're like, oh, I hate working with recruiters. They do this, they do. But if everyone kind of starts elevating and AI can somehow make things more relevant and quicker, better, faster, I think it'll help just improve the overall image
Yeah.
of the industry.
Yeah.
That's my that's
I
my
think
hot
so. I
take.
think parts of the industry just, yeah, have been kind of stuck a little bit, but I think they're now
Yeah.
like really progressing, and that's going to, all that trickles down to how candidates and clients and even investors are looking at some of these companies and brands, right?
That's right.
So,
Well, Christian, we will do it again, my friend. Thank you
yeah.
for being the guinea pig with this new
Yeah,
software
this is
tool I've been
awesome.
playing around with
No,
today.
yeah,
The
no,
only
I
thing I
loved it.
couldn't the only thing I couldn't figure out was I couldn't figure out how to make it go dynamic. Like I was hoping
Oh, like,
somehow like when you were talking, I wanted you to be full screen
oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I kept trying
No,
this little thing right here, but see, it just kept making you the
I
little
mean,
midget.
you want to be, yeah, I mean, but you're the star of the show, right?
I'm
So
not
you
the
need to
star of
be
the
front and
show.
center.
I'm the caboose. I'm
No,
just
it's all
shoveling
good.
coal, keeping the engine running.
No, it's
Christian,
all good.
great seeing you again, my friend. I look
Yeah.
forward to many more conversations with you.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks again for having me on,
You
Tony.
got it, brother.
See ya.